Today I wanted to go over what our digital vehicle inspection process looks like, or DVI. Every vehicle that comes in this shop at Boca Auto Fix, we do a DVI, or digital vehicle inspection. And basically what that is that's myself as a master ASE tech visually inspecting many components of the vehicle. Depending on the vehicle, it could be anywhere from 30, 35 points up to 50 points. So today we're going to go over a high-level overview of what that inspection process looks like. We're not going to get into the details of each one because the inspection process for most vehicles takes anywhere from 30 to 35 minutes depending on the size of the vehicle and the complexity of it. So if we zoom in here on our inspection process, and this is what the client will see, is we have 6 major sections. We have Walkup, we have Underhood, Undercar, brakes, battery, and down here we have tires. So as those sections expand, it's easy for the client to understand what we would mark green, which means it's good, it's in good shape, it doesn't need any attention at this time. Yellow, which means we may have to evaluate it further or replace a component, but not necessarily today, it's not a high priority. Or red, such as brakes or tires that need to be addressed during this visit, because typically it's a safety concern. So the first section that we're going to look at on this 2021 Honda Civic, this vehicle is brand new to us. Ramon owns it. It's got about 25,000 miles. It's actually in for an air conditioning concern that we've already addressed. But we wanted to, like I mentioned, every vehicle gets an inspection. So we're going to use this as our vehicle that we're going to inspect. So the first section that I'm going to open up is a walk-up. Alyssa, our customer advocate, is going to, when the vehicle comes to us on site, after she speaks with the client, understands the concern, she's going to go and take 4 corner pictures. And that's to ensure that we document the current state of the vehicle as it looks on the outside. She's also going to take a picture of the instrument cluster while the vehicle's idling, assuming we could start the vehicle. And that's going to ensure that we have full documentation of any lights on the dash. We could have a tire pressure monitor light, a check engine light, or any variety of other lights on the dash. The other thing Alyssa is going to do is take a picture of the oil change sticker. Most shops or oil change quick lube shops will put a sticker on the windshield. We will do one as well, and that's to ensure that we have a snapshot in time as to when the oil was last serviced. Once the walk-up pictures are complete, the process is then handed over to myself as the technician, and we're going to start working through the different items in this scenario, the walk-up. So we're going to look at windshield and windows. We're going to look at wipers, mirrors, headlights, taillights, and HVAC. So I'm going to go outside, I'm going to start the vehicle, we're going to check the wipers, make sure they're cleaning properly, we're going to check and make sure the mirrors are not cracked, make sure there's no glass that's cracked or broken or missing. We're going to check, once I do my test drive, most times if it's just an inspection that we don't have to do any further evaluation on, I can test drive around our oak circle here in front of the shop, which is about 3/8 of a mile. I'll pull it into the shop, and we'll continue to go through the walk-up section. So we'll check headlights, check marker lights, turn signals, front and rear of the vehicle, including license plate lights. We see many vehicles come in that have a bulb out that a client may not notice. We want to make sure all bulbs are in place so that the vehicle is as safe as possible to drive on the road at night. And also HVAC is the last part of this section. So we want to just make sure, especially here in South Florida, that the air is performing well, it's not making any noises, it's actually cooling off as it should. The next section that we would approach is called Underhood, and it's just as it describes, Underhood section. We're going to start with the cabin air filter. Some vehicles, the cabin air filter is relatively easy to get to, that I can check. Other times it takes a little bit more work to get to that filter. But we can look at previous vehicle history and see if that filter needs to be replaced. We'll then move on to engine oil, pull the dipstick, make sure there's engine oil in it. We always document the amount of engine oil that's in the vehicle, even if it's in for an oil change, because we want to ensure that if it's low, that we understand if it's a leak or if it's burning engine oil. We move on to transmission fluid, brake fluid, power steering fluid, coolant, air filter, hoses, belts, and fuel system. So again, this is going to be a very similar report that our clients will see, and I will go and check if an air filter is relatively to get to, as an example. I could pull that air filter out. We could look at the condition of it, mark it red, yellow, green, so on and so forth. So that's considered under the hood of the vehicle. In this underhood as well, most vehicles' batteries are under the hood. Some are in different spots. We do try to test most batteries that we can get to. So this Honda Civic, you can see the battery is up next to the shock tower. I can look at the conditions of the terminals, if there's any leaks of acid that might be corroding the terminals. We also have a battery tester that I will do a cold cranking resistance test on and see if the battery's in good shape or not. Batteries in Florida tend to last about 3 years, so we want to test every battery that comes in if it's in a spot that we can get to. Once I've done all the underhood visual inspections in the battery, we're then going to go to undercar. So the first thing I would do in the undercar section is, as we all know, tires is one of the most important safety components of the vehicle. Every vehicle by law has to have a tire placard in the B pillar in the front door. So Alyssa's zooming in here. You can see it tells us tire size, and then more importantly in this scenario for the inspection, I'm looking at tire pressures. Every vehicle ranges in their tire pressures is usually low to mid 30 PSI range. And that way I'll know that those tires need to be filled to that certain pressure. So what we'll do here is we'll lift the vehicle up. I already have the arms kicked in underneath. We're going to raise the vehicle up. It'll be easy for me to check tire pressure once the vehicle's in the about chest height position here, as you can see. What we'll do is we'll go to each tire at this point. We will notate the tire size, make sure that it matches the placard on the in the vehicle that we just mentioned before. We're going to check tire pressures, make sure we don't have one tire that might be much lower than the others where we may have to look for a nail or a puncture in the tire. And then at this point most cars I can look through the wheel to look at brake pad condition. Most vehicles now are disc brakes front and rear. I can look at the pad condition typically through the wheels. Some cars we have to take the wheels off to look at it. But we just want to look at the rotor to look for any grooving, see if the pads are worn beyond any specific thickness limits. We measure that with a different tool that we can go in there and do a further investigation if needed. So once we document all the tires, we can then go up all the way with the vehicle. And then the last section that we have after brakes is undercar. So we've looked at the brakes. We can also look at some of the brake components under the vehicle, but we can go under the undercar section. So things like ball joints, tie rod ends, wheel bearings, sway bar end links, control arm bushings, shocks and struts, CV axles, powertrain mounts, fluid leaks, exhaust, differential and transfer case fluids for trucks, and alignment and tires. So once the vehicle's on the lift, we can check things, as I mentioned, like exhaust, make sure that it's intact. We can look for any cracks or issues with the suspension or the steering, tie rod components, ball joints. We look for any fluid leaks. As we see, Ramon's Civic has no fluid leaks here whatsoever. I've pulled this panel down for a little bit ease of access. We can look through and see the inside brake pads up against the rotors, shake the wheels and whatnot. So that process, as I mentioned, can take anywhere from 25, 30, 35 minutes. But that's what's completed on every vehicle that comes through here. Again, it's a visual inspection. We want to get a baseline. We want to understand if there's any safety concerns, anything we need to present to the client so that they have a full picture of what the vehicle needs, even over and above what they brought it in for, so that they can make the best decision possible for the decisions made to repair the vehicle. So thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.